Welcome to Let's Talk Pain. I'm Carol Martin. I'm joined today by a panel of three guests, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who we know well, also Denise Coleman, and Dr. Laurie Ferguson. We're going to talk about the thinking and feeling about pain, the emotional component. In other words, how do we deal with the emotional challenges that may accompany pain? First, though, I'd like to talk a bit about Let's Talk Pain. Let's Talk Pain is a coalition of organizations that focuses on increasing the awareness and improving the understanding of pain management. We want to encourage people and their healthcare professionals to talk about pain, to listen actively to one another, and then to take action that improves care for those living with pain. Hopefully, we can all open a conversation around this very sensitive topic. Chronic pain, as you know, obviously has physical effects. But as I mentioned, there is often an emotional effect that comes from pain. Sometimes it is the worry a patient may have about being perceived as a real burden to family and close friends. Sometimes physical restrictions affect intimacy with a significant other. This is what we're going to be talking about in this episode. And so now to the introductions. Our first guest is certainly no stranger to adversity, and she really needs no introduction, but we will speak about this cultural icon. It's Dr. Ruth Westheimer, welcoming you to the show, Dr. Ruth. She is a psychosexual therapist. She's the author of 34 books. She is currently an adjunct professor at NYU, as well as a fellow of both Calhoun College at Yale and Butler College at Princeton University. Glad you're with us, Dr. Ruth. Then I'd like you to meet Denise Coleman. Welcome to the show, Denise. Denise has developed the Chronic Pain Awareness Project. Now, this increases the awareness of chronic pain through education. She was recently selected to be a volunteer leader for the Power Over Pain Action Network, that run by the American Pain Foundation. She has lived with chronic pain for over 40 years. Her story is quite inspirational. I really encourage you all to go to letstalkpain.org. You can there watch Denise's in-depth profile and learn more about her triumphs through her own adversity. Glad you're with us.
Thank you.
And finally, filling out our panel, Dr. Laurie Ferguson. Dr. Ferguson is a health psychologist. She is also a motivational speaker and a columnist for creakyjoints.org. An interesting website. It's devoted to the discussion of arthritis. Dr. Ferguson also serves as Vice President of Education and Research for the Global Healthy Living Foundation. So glad you're with us, Dr. Ferguson. So we've got a great group, and I'm glad we can get started with our discussion. Lots to learn. Speaking again to the emotional component, I'm going to start with you, Laurie, if I may. When you want to think about how to tackle this problem of the emotions around pain, what are the most important components? What do you think of first for a patient?
In terms of the kinds of feelings they may be having
Feelings
that they haven't really...
that they have to tackle.
That they have to think about. The first one, of course, is isolation. Feeling it's really just me, or feeling very alone, cut off. Second would probably be that feeling of being a burden. People have to take care of me. I can't do everything for myself that I used to. I'm taking up people's time. A third would be depression. Depression happens almost always with chronic pain. And the fourth would be how you talk about it, finding language, finding a way to be believed, because often people don't believe that you have that pain, or it's just now, or you'll get over it.
The stigma, not to mention the gender-related issues around that.
Exactly.
Yeah, is it all in your head? Is it really happening?
Well, people often assume it's all in your head.
Yes, yes. And all of these things make one hesitant sometimes to reach out for help. Denise, your story, I mean, and your constant search for solutions with your problem. And again, we encourage you to look at letstalkpain.org, and you can know more about Denise. All these things resonate, I presume, for you.
Yes, they do, and I want to add another feeling that at least I experienced. I don't want to say everybody will, but that's a sense of failure when I couldn't overcome it, when I couldn't do something that I wanted to do, or I couldn't take my daughter someplace. I had 4 spinal surgeries, so that limited what I could do right there. But pain limits too, and having to step back and say, this is not what I can do, and yet not give up, takes a lot of energy. So you're fatigued and you're tired, and you still want to be out there doing everything that you dreamed of doing. And so I deal with a sense of overcoming failure And I think I'm there. But
clearly.
I have to work at a lot of these emotions every day.
It's a lot of work.
I don't think you're ever really over them.
Yeah, the triumph
but
over
you have to be
adversity.
aware of them. And I just, if I could, on communication, I think that's critical with your doctors as well as family and friends, because they don't feel it, they can't understand it. And I think we have to accept that they can't understand it and not expect them to.
That's such a
So we
big
have
part.
to tell them.
Knowing going in then that it, you know, Dr. Ruth, I mean, this certainly makes sense to me. You, as someone who has always opened up our eyes to new ways of thinking about things, I think what Denise just said about, you know, feeling like a failure, feeling as if this will never get better.
And I think that the particular contribution of this program and the two of you with Carol and me is, it's a little bit like when I started to talk about that subject of sex. People said, this is not a subject to talk about, especially not in public. And I think what you are doing and what we are doing here today is particularly important to say, here is a subject matter that was taboo up until now. We have an obligation to educate. That's what you people are doing every day. That there are some problems that need to be in the open. It's not going to take away the pain. It's not going to solve all the problems.
Not a quick fix.
It's
right.
not a quick fix. But at least it's something that I believe, Carol, that we have to say, stand up and be counted.
Laurie, when you speak about giving yourself permission, is that fair to
Giving
put it
yourself
that way?
permission
Yeah.
and finding it's both. I like the idea that it's a process, it's a continuum too. I mean, some days you're going to feel well and you don't want to talk about it. You know, other days you feel lousy and you need to. So it's giving yourself that space, but finding a safe space to talk, which means I think having more than one person to talk to. Sometimes we lean just on the people we live with, or we lean just on our healthcare professional, and I view having a whole array of people. So
Most interesting, Laurie, because in my area of expertise, what I talk about is this issue of giving yourself permission to be sexually satisfied. And here is something very important that happens, that the partner is reluctant to initiate any sexual activity because the partner doesn't know, are you in pain right now? Unless you speak up.
Well, Dr. Ruth, it's intimacy on all levels, too, really, just, I suppose, not only sexually intimate, but also, I suppose, just having a way of being close to someone.
Of touching,
That's very
of hugging.
Do I literally say to whomever it is, whether it's my spouse or my close friends, you have a little pain group almost, you tell them that I'm going to ask you to give me some time to speak with you about, because it's true, you can easily become a whiner or be thought of as.
Because I think it's important to be able to have an open communication, because sometimes you're going to approach someone and not get a good reception. There may be a friend that you've had for years, and I have had this happen, and the person, you know,
Can't take it.
says they want to know what's
but they
happening.
really don't.
But they really,
And when you tell them, then they
can't
shut
deal
you
with
off.
it.
they can't deal with it.
Because
and
they
back
can't
off,
deal with it,
and
and
it's a
then
big problem.
there are all kind of psychological issue of why does it happen to me?
Yes.
Why not to somebody else? And the person that you talk to also feeling a little bit of, oh my gosh, if I talk to you, maybe it's contagious. maybe
Pain
that,
is such a fearful, we have a lot of fears around.
and so I think that it's really a kind of a frontier that you people all are opening today by saying, here's an aspect of life. Everybody has some kind of pain, psychological pain, some kind of, and you have to find that balance. In my particular case, I was an orphan at the age of 10, and the pain will never go away, the psychological pain. But you have to know when and with whom, the point that you just made, when and with whom to talk about it.
Comfort zone.
Right, because you don't want to be rejected.
Right.